everybody, my name is Marcos Casiano, and I'm here to tell you about my tales from the road. Some of my adventures that happen along the highways and byways of the U.S. and Canada, but never Mexico. This next tale has to do with traveling on the highway. It didn't start out playing music, but it had to do with back in the day, you might say. The family was moving. We were moving from New Jersey to El Paso, Texas. This was going to be my father's last assignment in the military. And what had happened, my last year in New Jersey was, I had kind of stopped playing drums for a while because I got a renewed interest in baseball. It was just one of those things that the band really wasn't playing that much. I don't remember working, and I remember it was just like in February. It's still cold in New Jersey, and they were doing the calls for baseball, and I just had this hankering back because I love baseball, and I hadn't really played organized baseball in about 3 years, and I don't know, for some reason I was thinking this is my last chance to play baseball. So I remember just on the last day of the practice, the tryouts, after this was the cutoff, you couldn't come after this date. So I'm home and I just put my glove in a like a duffel bag and my cleats and everything, and nobody was there to take me back to the school, so I just basically ran because I was late. Ran all the way to the school. I was out of shape. I remember pulling a hamstring muscle too. It seemed like to this day it's never healed. So anyways, I had a great season playing baseball in New Jersey at my high school. And again, that was really the last time I played baseball. But I really had a really good season. I really did well. And so we moved to El Paso. And the first thing I do, we moved there like in June. School starts in September. I ask, who's in charge of the baseball program. They told me the name of the teacher. It's usually a teacher who's in charge. And I went, actually, he was my biology teacher. So I went to him immediately and I said, hey, I'm your new right fielder for Eastwood High School, And he said, okay, well, tryouts began. I think it's in February. I think it's pretty much standard, somewhere around there, February. And it's still a little cold in El Paso in February. But what happens? Okay, like the title of this video, it's kind of like a defining moment. Something happens in your life that changes, the course of your life. And in this story, kind of like two things happen. So we moved to El Paso, and it's September. School just starts. There was a new family that moved down the street, and they were retired military, the father. So military people kind of have a sort of a camaraderie. We kind of get along with each other real well. We're always interested in each other, to see where you come from. Hey, where was your last assignment? So this guy named Victor shows up at my house because, my parents had been talking with his parents or had met them somehow, and then explain, oh yeah, I've got some kids at my house and blah blah. So Victor shows up and he sees this drum set in the garage, and he says, do you play drums? I go, yeah, I play a little drums, yeah. He goes, well, I know this guy named Diego, they're looking for a drummer for their band. And I said, looking for a drummer, interesting. And I thought, well, I hadn't played in a while. Now, yeah, I'm definitely interested. So somehow I go to Diego's house. He told me where he lives, and we kind of do this little audition, and we talk, and like it was Diego on guitar. There was another guy named Victor. He played guitar, and then they had a girl singer named Dee Dee. So it was basically just two guitars, drums, and a girl singer. At this point, there was no bass player. So we rehearse, and we do a couple of auditions around the town. And I remember the band needed a name, so I actually named the band. It was called Full Circle, and I got it from an album cover, because in those days we'd go to record stores, and I saw this guy, singer named Leon Thomas, and I knew who he was, and I thought, Full Circle, for some reason I like that name. So when it came time to naming the band, I suggested Full Circle, and it stuck. But we did some kind of interesting gigs. Again, with two guitars and drums, we were kind of like a easy listening band. We did songs by like Jim Croce, the Eagles, and we did some Spanish numbers too, because Dee Dee could sing in Spanish, and Diego knew a couple of songs in Spanish, you know. So we had this little gig, and I remember every Monday night we played at the Officers Club at Fort Bliss for a thing called Beef and Burgundy Night, of which we got none of the beef and none of the burgundy, but all the food was out in front of us on the stage, and I'm like, you know, watering at the mouth because, man, that big piece of roast really looked good, you know. So anyways, as time goes on, the guitar player Victor leaves, and the girl singer Dee Dee, she leaves, and I don't really remember why. It was just they left, but when they left, we ended up with a bass player. So we it's like you might say we never missed a lick. So I think Diego put an ad up at the music store, and this guy Alan, he was a bass player. He answered the ad, and he came to the house, and you know, we hook up, and you know, Alan sang and Diego sang, and of course I didn't sing. And so I remember that was funny because I didn't sing. We went to audition for this guy. His name was Don Kanji, I think was his name. And his big claim to fame was he was the manager or booking agent for Fabian. So we were going to go to audition for him, and we were like, you know, for three-piece bands, you know, Don Kanji really likes for everybody to sing. So I remember we hook up a mic, and I pretend I'm singing, and you know, we do the audition, and he didn't say much other than that. I remember he said, "Oh, I see the drummer sing some." I thought that was kind of funny. So anyways, you know, I meet Alan, and again, this kind of becomes another defining moment because upon meeting Alan, he told me that he had been on the road with this other guy named Kurt, and he had actually come back to El Paso because they were regrouping. But when he saw the ad that this group that I had, Full Circle, was looking for a bass player, he immediately answered it because we actually had work, and he was able to earn some money and work with us. But for some reason, this Full Circle thing kind of faded out. And then through Alan, I met this other guy named Kurt, and then with Kurt, we put a little band together because again, Alan and Kurt had been working on the road, so they were basically looking for a drummer to go back out on the road. And this was getting close to the end of the school year, and I needed something to do. And they actually, you know, the way they offered me this job, like it's going to be like a professional job, traveling all over the highways and byways. And I even remember that on high school graduation, I didn't even go to my graduation. I actually had a gig that night, so I did the gig and not went to my graduation. And at this point, I didn't really see high school as much of an accomplishment because it was, to me, it was like high school is something anybody could do. All you got to do is show up, behave yourself, and get your diploma. So that to me was not an accomplishment. And for me, music was just a better fit for me, and to this day I'm still playing. And again, you know, two things in my life happened. This guy Victor comes to the house, he sees my drum set, I meet this guy Diego, and then through, you know, an ad at a music store, we get this bass player named Alan. He hooks me up with this other guy named Kurt. We form a little trio, and we head out on the road on like something like August the 8th, 1975. So that's kind of like where my career on the road of the highways and byways started. Okay, more later. God bless you.